Hey guys, welcome to 6 Minutes for Thursday, August 25th. I'm Jason Fulmore, SC Russell. Today I had the opportunity to catch up with Coach David Thornbury of North Murray. We talk about his move from Kell to North Murray a little bit at the beginning, but I was totally geeking out on the maps that he's put together of every single area / region in the state of Georgia. And I'm a big data person, and how you represent different things, and maps, I think, and graphics are really good ways of representing things. And I think that his maps are really pretty interesting to look at. Kind of gives you some perspective of those schools that are in close proximity to one another. And he's learned a great deal of many other things as a result of doing this process. So we take a few minutes to talk a little bit about his creation of those maps. And it was a good conversation. If you're interested in any of the maps, you can go to his Twitter at Coach Thornbury, or I'm going to try to put every single one of them up on SC Russell, so you guys can go there and check them out. Enjoy my conversation with Coach David Thornbury. Thanks. Hey, everyone. Here, Jason Fulmore, SC Russell. Here with Coach Thornbury, North Murray. How's it going, Coach?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. And it feels weird to say North Murray. I mean, I'm ever since you and I have interacted, you've been at Kell.
Yeah, I was at Kell for the past 5 years. And that's also where I student taught 8 years ago. So Kell actually gave me my start. So it is kind of weird to come back to my hometown. But
so North Murray and that neck of the woods is your hometown.
Yeah, so I graduated from Murray County High School.
Okay.
Which North Murray didn't. No, it was built whenever I was a senior. That was the first year of North Murray. So I'm back in my hometown, but I'm on the other side of town. So my dad was a longtime coach at Murray County. He was my coach. He won 2 state titles. I kind of like that I'm going to North Murray. Last year was probably their best wrestling season ever.
Yeah.
They made the state duels.
Right.
But it's just, and good situation too, where the wrestling coach became the AD.
Oh.
And his name's
nothing wrong
Granger.
with having some administrative support there, right?
Yeah. And he was my middle school coach.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's just, yeah. Everything
awesome.
Just the stars kind of lined up for it.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask you what the draw was to go up there, but from what you just said, it sounds like back to your hometown, the really good situation that you're walking into, all of those things kind of really prompted this move to North Murray.
Yeah, and my daughter just turned 1, and I like her being around grandparents too.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So what can we expect from North Murray this year? And I want to cue everyone. I want to make sure they know we're actually going to talk about what I think is one of the coolest things, because I'm a map geek. I love maps and things along those lines, and how you got into that and how you make them and all those things. But I want to talk just real quickly about North Murray and the program and what we might expect this coming year.
So North Murray did make the state duels last year, graduating 7 seniors. And that's normally they were all starters too. That's normally a pretty steep hill to climb, but they had a full JV team. There's a handful of freshmen that have some talent and promise. So I'm really optimistic.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, no, it's always fun taking over a new program, developing that culture, kind of seeing, how it's going to kind of unfold, in front of you,
Yeah. And I'm
you
excited
had it at
too.
Kell, so it's not like you're a newbie at it, but it's certainly gonna be fun. And I think we're gonna get a chance to peek at maybe some of your competition in one of these maps. Is that right?
Oh yeah. That's the first one. That's the first one I made when I got the job, was the region map.
Okay, all right. So are you a history teacher? Is that how you got into making maps, or what was it about the maps?
Ever since I was young, I've always liked maps. Always been social studies kind of guy. I can't memorize a phone number, but I could probably draw the US from memory if I had to.
Yeah.
So it's just my mind works that way. During the pandemic, whenever I was teaching online, I was just bored out of my mind, and I think that's the first time I made the Cobb map
Okay.
because the and all I'm doing on PowerPoint is just tracing the shapes of the districts or the shapes of the county. But once I trace the shape, I have it forever. I can copy and paste it to the next map if I'm moving
Okay.
around. So it's a lot less work than it sounds once you get going.
I'll tell you what, I look at them and I'm like blown away by them, right? I mean, I see them and I'm like, how in the world did you do this? Because I think it's, for me, maps are such a really good um, presentation of kind of, you know, the proximity of the schools. And then you've got the colors and the logos involved as well. It's just a really good illustration of things. Like, so what, yeah, I'm really curious, what is that process? It's in PowerPoint?
Yeah, it's a PowerPoint. And the problem is, like, I could never find a map that had everything that I wanted it to look like. You can find maps of the school districts if you look around. There's even like a website called Zip Data Maps or something. It sounds sketchy, but it's not. It shows all the school districts. But it's just very generic Google Maps in the background, and it's like neon colors. So I'd
Okay.
usually start with that, and then I would trace shapes, and then paste logos onto it.
Wow. Wow. And the colors.
Yeah. So on PowerPoint, you can usually extract any color you need as long as you have it from the logo that you rip off of,
Right.
their website or whatever.
Right. Right. So this is actually where it probably is really simple. And I'm looking at it going, yeah, I'm 50 something years old. I'm not sure it's as simple for me, but it is kind of a practice makes perfect kind of thing.
Yeah. And I'm on PowerPoint all the time just from teaching social studies,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
So
yeah. And during the pandemic, whenever I was live on Zoom, it really helped making those maps for history, just so the kids could see it. I couldn't stand up there with a marker and a board like I used to,
right.
so I think making those maps really helped.
So let's pull up Cobb County and that map first. And this is the first one that you made. So this is a representation of so I guess the question for me is you got the outline of Cobb County, but how do you know like Lassiter's district is this shape or Kell's district is this shape or whatever?
Cobb County has a map on their website. It's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, and it shows it has roads and everything on it, and by color you can tell what district you're in. And I think they even got it where you can just type your address in and it'll tell you if you can't read the map.
Okay. So when you were doing this, how long did it take you to pull together this first one that you worked on?
The very first one took a while because I was figuring out everything, and it's hard to figure out how to layer everything because whenever you make one shape, the shape next to it you have to like slide under it because
Right.
your lines are never. So it's keeping all that straight that you have to get used to.
So like multiple layers? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So like if I were to make the shape that's Altoona first,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
the other three shapes around it will go under it because like I can't make the lines exactly the same. The borders of each exactly the same. So
Got it.
you have to keep the layer going, and that's the only thing that was challenging at first. And I'm sure there's an easier way to do this. By the way, it's just I started doing it on PowerPoint.
No, I mean, there might be, but I'll tell you, I mean, did you drop every single like wrestling uh district, region, area, or whatever for this coming year? You've already dropped them all, haven't you?
Yeah, I think I dropped the last one earlier this month.
Yeah. So I'm going to post them all on SE Wrestle, and that way people can go and check it out and kind of see what they look like and that sort of thing. I'm actually going to use it as kind of the map above, like the returners for each of those areas and regions and everything else.
Nice.
But I think it's super. I think it's super cool. So, were there any like in making this Cobb County map before we go to the second one? Were there any like challenges, or were there any things that you ran across that you're like, dang, and I'm not sure how to problem solve that?
The borders of Marietta City are oversimplified. There's actually some islands that are like separate from the city that
Oh,
are kind of
okay.
scattered around because like
Yeah.
a city school district, their borders are just the city limits, the incorporated city limits. So
Right.
if you made it look completely realistic, I think it looks kind of silly because you just have like little blue holes.
Well, kind of like gerrymandering, like, districts for voting, right?
Yeah, the city districts always look like that.
Oh, really?
That's yeah, and we'll talk about that with the next map because that's
Yeah,
one
because
reason why I
actually,
pointed out.
your link was to the city system. Our second map is city systems, 1 and 2. Let's go with one, which is the north
Yeah, there's
first.
more of them.
So, these are the city systems, um, and they kind of look a little like scattered, like it. So is that pretty representative, or are they simplified just like you just said?
They're simplified to some degree, but that's the general idea. On Google, if you just type in like Dalton, Georgia, it'll the first thing that comes up is the map, and it shows the city, the outline of the city. And they
Oh,
usually look like that because like usually whenever a city annexes other areas, they'll do it just bit by bit. Sometimes they'll just like go down a road and it'll leave other areas unincorporated.
got it.
So
Yeah, no, that
they
totally
look
makes
like that.
sense. Right,
Yeah,
right,
you could almost tell a city school district from a county school district just by looking at how it's shaped.
right. How many jagged lines it has?
And one thing that's interesting in Georgia is there's 159 counties, and each county has a school district. They have to. I think it's required, but cities have the option. So there's only 21 city school districts, and Atlanta is the only one with more than one high school. So 20 of them
Oh,
are just like single high school city
yeah,
school districts.
yeah. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that actually talks about this second thing that I wanted to get to, which was what did you learn by doing it that you didn't know previously? That you just it was kind of one of those things like, oh, I didn't realize that.
I thought there was more of them, and there's a lot of high schools that are named after cities that are county that you just assume are city schools unless you know. Like
Yeah.
I thought Villa Rica and like if you didn't know, you'd think Ringgold was a city school, but it's not. It's a county school. It just happens to have a name of the city.
Got it.
So you just kind
Yeah.
of have to like know if it's a city school or not. Um, and I'm not trying to point out like an unfair advantage or anything, but the way they operate differently, they tend to have more kids from out of district. That's why a lot of them had to bump up recently with the Georgia high school
Right.
reclassifying. So it can get kind of political. But I just think it's interesting how they
Yeah.
operate differently than a county school system. And there hasn't been any city districts like added or like created since integration. There's
Oh, is that
actually
right?
yeah, there's actually been two that have folded since then, Waycross and Americus. Like the city school district dissolved and they merged with the county, but there hasn't been any like new ones created. I think Brookhaven tried but couldn't get the money together.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's so interesting. And certainly in your wheelhouse of things that you're interested in and you talk about all the time. So let's go to map number 3, which was who doesn't wrestle, because this is one of the things that I think you kind of learn, and this is a perfect representation of like a perfect way to represent, like you see that southwest corner of Georgia who doesn't have wrestling in their traditional public schools.
Yeah, and it for most of it mirrors population density. Not perfectly though, because like Schley County is one of the smallest counties in the state and has a wrestling team.
Right.
And at the same time, Liberty County has a 5A high school that doesn't have wrestling. So
Oh, is that
there,
right?
yeah, there's some variant to it, but for the most part, they're smaller school districts.
More rural and
Yeah, just less kids and just less of a tradition and culture. But at the same time, there's some single A schools in South Georgia that are tough,
yeah.
and it's just it seems random which ones have it and which ones don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a coach who is affiliated or moves into that area and really wants to start it, and they build a level of tradition and they get that, and if you don't have that, I mean, it probably is just not an opportunity that exists for the kids in that area, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So as I was looking at this, I know, I think I tweeted you back. it represents, like, I think there are 38 out of the
Yeah,
159 or something like that that don't have wrestling.
yeah. I double checked that too because it's 36 of them with one high school. Two of them have two high schools, Liberty and Meriwether, and there's four high schools in bigger districts that don't have it, and one city school, Thomasville.
Yeah. So is that the biggest surprise? What's the biggest surprise when you look at it and you realize that that county or that whatever doesn't have wrestling?
Well, what's a big shift is all the Atlanta city schools have wrestling for the first time,
Right.
and there's one in Fulton and one in DeKalb that don't. They used to be always solid,
Right.
but on according to the region list, Tri Cities and Cross Creek don't have wrestling this year.
Right. And we
So
get Midtown has wrestling and others that do. So
every one of the I think South Atlanta was one of the last ones to add it.
yeah.
So, and I'm
So
by the way,
that's
I'm just going by the region list.
right. Right.
That's my source. I know it can change because like in Dalton, Christian Heritage added wrestling last year, and I didn't know until I saw them at state because I don't think they ever sent an updated region list to
I
all the
know.
coaches.
Right. Well, and you were making these, and I'm the person who's trying to follow all of it. And I see Christian Heritage pop up, and I'm like, huh? I mean, it was very yes. So I'm not sure that that got updated. I 100% 100% agree with you. Let's jump to your region. So is this the one that you made first when you took the job up to North Murray?
Yeah, and if I had unlimited time and resources, they would all look like this with the mountains put in and like with info for every school.
Yeah.
So that's like just if I had all the time in the world, they'd all look like this.
Yeah. And
But
honestly, the mountains put in, again, I don't know how you go about doing that, but it's I mean you must take it from some another map and be able to
yeah,
to
that the
draw
key
it the
is
best you can.
to get more than one map and to layer them on top of each other. You can make like one of them transparent so you can see through it. That's the
Yeah.
key. That's the key to making like a map that nobody else has is like having to put stuff together.
It's totally cool. I mean, I love the mountains. The mountains give such richness to are there things that you've tried to overlay and then you look back and you go, that just doesn't look as good, like lakes or bodies of water or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, yes. I've tried stuff that doesn't work. I've tried putting the interstates on there and it just doesn't look.
It doesn't look good.
Yeah, I don't think it looks very good whenever you do that. And I've tried lakes too. It's hard to get lakes shaped perfectly if you don't have it on the original map.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one thing I found.
So I think somebody in Twitter referenced 2A7 as being the Bucky's region. I was a little surprised it didn't pop up on your map. No, I'm just kidding. But
I thought about it.
it's spread out quite a bit. You know, and the thing that Lucas and I were talking just recently about was the fact that this is new. These are, I mean, we now have new regions and new areas and new everything else. Was that a lot of fun to kind of see the changes that happened as you were creating the new ones?
Yes, and I don't have any data to back this up, but I think this has to be the most change in a while because of how they changed the multiplier. A
Right.
lot of schools went up, mostly private and city schools went up, and schools like Murray and North Murray went down just because of everyone else going up. They both have like 1,000 students, which I think used to be a small 3A school, but now it's a big 2A school.
Yeah. Well, and then you got Lovett jumps from like 2 to 4, and
There's
Woodward
some
Academy goes from 5 to 7, but now down to 6 again. Or yeah, so it's super interesting.
Buford's in
Um,
7. That's one of the biggest seismic shifts. Is
yeah,
Buford going to 7?
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, so now I'm going to pull up the last map, and like I told you, I'm going to slaughter it, but Conestoga,
Conestoga Cup.
the Conestoga Cup. And for those of us who aren't in that neck of the woods, your neck of the woods, what is the Conestoga Cup? Because this is obviously got North Murray and Murray County on it, but it doesn't have like your region. So this is a special group of schools.
So whenever I was younger, it was just Murray, Dalton, Northwest, and Southeast. Those were the 4 schools that wrestled in Murray and Whitfield County. The Conestoga River goes between the 2 counties, by the way.
Oh, okay.
That's where the Conestoga name comes from.
Got it.
And I think whenever Murray and Northwest like traded, getting bumped up to 5A whenever there was only 5 and we weren't all together anymore. And I think my dad was the coach at Murray when they started doing it. Just they always got to wrestle every year to see who was the best. And now since then they built Kahula Creek and North Murray, who've wrestled in it. Also Dalton Academy and Christian Heritage have wrestling. I'm not sure if they'll wrestle in it this year, but we're going to try to add them eventually.
Very cool. Yeah.
And, I don't know if they still have the trophy because I haven't lived here in a while, but there used to be a trophy with a turtle on top of it.
Oh,
that the winning team got to keep.
The turtle is representative of the Conestoga River.
Yeah, there's a lot of turtles in there. I can attest to that firsthand.
All right. The last thing I'm going to mention as we pull away from this map is this one has a little bit more detail.
This would be if I had unlimited resources and everything I wanted. This is what all the maps would look like. It's got roads, creeks, mountains, everything. And what we were saying earlier, if you zoom out, it's hard to do this. It's hard to do all the roads and everything because it just starts to look all jumbled up.
Right.
So this from the way I do it on PowerPoint, the best way to show roads and mountains and everything, or if you zoom in about this far.
Got it.
But yeah, and I think I made this after I took the North Murray job, and I had more time on my hands.
Got it.
Transition.
So the last question I have for you before we wrap up is you made, I mean, I don't know how many, it's what, 7 weight classes or 7 classifications by, 8 regions or whatever. So, I mean, you made a ton of maps over the last, was there one that was most difficult to make?
The region 1 and 6A stretches from like Ware County all the way to Augusta.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole bottom half of the state. That one was hard.
Yeah. Because I mean, you gotta show that distance, but you also, then you got this just little bit of yellow down in the corner or something. Is that gonna, it's not as specific. Is that right?
I've done that for like Towns County's region because they're on their own. So I just did like a box, like Hawaii and Alaska. But that region is it's like 3 of them are down here and 3 of them are up here. So you can't, unless you just had 2 separate maps,
right,
or whatever.
Right.
That's definitely the guys coaching down that way know what I'm talking about. It's the region's absurd. I mean, I think somebody looked it up. It was like 3.5 hours for a region event. Going from one school to
is
the
that
other.
right?
Yeah. I mean, Waycross to Augusta. It's not close.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'm going to use the maps and that sort of thing when I'm doing things as I do. I would be so interested in something similar in many of the other states that I cover, just because it's super interesting to kind of look at it graphically and kind of see what what you're talking about as it relates to Towns County and that sort of thing. It happens in North Carolina a lot, is that they have to come from very significant distances to kind of get there. So it's totally cool. Coach, I appreciate you taking the time and sharing this with us. I might be the only map geek out there that I think it's totally cool. I mean, I just yeah. Do you have any ideas of, as we end this, of what you might do next?
I probably just want to keep making them. I mean, I have no desire to try to, I don't know, do anything more with it. I didn't even know people would like them at all. I can't remember why I even posted it for the first time. I think it might have been like on one of my flyers for Kell, and people really liked the Cobb County map. I was just surprised that I thought it was just a weird tick that I had. I didn't know that people would enjoy looking at it.
I think it's it's like any type of graphic. You get an opportunity to kind of it helps kind of put things into place for some people. Now, maybe not for everybody.
Well, and my job at North Murray, I'm teaching stuff I've never taught before, so my productivity might slow down a little bit.
Well, Coach, I appreciate it. Best of luck this season at North Murray. Really appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to post the link. Is there a website where you have all of them? I mean, I'll post them on mine, but I don't know. Is there one that we can push people to?
As of now, if you just scroll through my Twitter, I posted every one of them to Twitter.
Okay.
At Coach Thornbury.
Okay.
And yeah, and thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. I think it's awesome. I mean, I like to talk about wrestling and all those sorts of things anyway, but you combine that with some maps and things like that, and I'm 100%. I'm 100% in. So very cool. Thanks, Coach.